Hey listeners, want us to let you know when new episodes are available? Simply hit the subscribe or follow button on the Next Breast Thing podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, join the conversation on our Facebook group by searching the Next Breast Thing podcast group on Facebook.
On this episode of The Next Breast Thing,
our topic today, how to run an efficient practice.
I went to see the baby, but I've got something that happened that I don't know if you've seen Indiana Jones. Falls into the pit and is face to face with a cobra. Yeah, I had a similar experience.
We have a ball python. It's my daughter's. I'm not allergic.
This
is not where I thought this conversation was going. Did anybody else's mouth start salivating when they heard about this topic? Because
everyone wants everything. Too little, too much. How do you get to just right?
For me, when I think about an efficient practice, I think about one of the challenges as a surgeon early in your career is at first, I wanted to be the person who did absolutely everything.
So Carla, give me the top 3 things that you have given up.
And setting up a schedule is difficult because I think you need to
I have to be out of this room in 10 minutes. Well, the patient's crying. You know, she just found out she had breast cancer.
I cannot work at 120% for a year. I cannot work at 120% for 5 years in a row. We've talked about work-life balance, whatever it is.
You know I cannot stand that.
I know. This is Carla, Ellie,
Michael,
Susie,
and Susan. Welcome to The Next Breast Thing, a podcast by the American Society of Breast Surgeons for the entire breast community.
We're a group of devoted surgeons from different parts of the country,
inviting you to journey with us into the science of breast
through the heart and soul of our breast community.
From advances in procedures and patient care to personal transformation, we're here to support you.
So, if you're part of the breast community and can't seem to find the answers, this is the next breast thing.
Our topic today, how to run an efficient practice, is an interesting topic that I think we can all benefit from. But before we get into that, let's start with some personal updates. Michael, let's start with you. What's going on with number 23?
Well, I went to see the baby, but I've got something that happened that I don't know if you've seen Indiana Jones. The first one. Falls into the pit and is face to face with a cobra. Yeah, I had a similar experience. I've Googled it. It was a cobra. I battled it to the death in my cabin out at the farm.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Was it alive when you first laid eyes on it, or was it dead?
Hard to tell.
because he was running in the other direction.
It had gotten caught in the sticky traps and died. So it actually was hard to peel it off the floor. So that was the battle because it had so much stickum on it. At any moment, it could have awakened and struck me, and you'd be down a co-host. So raising cows out in the country, it's dangerous, and I'm here for it. Ellie, do you have snake stories?
I can hear Indiana Jones
I
music
do.
playing in the background.
I was wearing a fedora and had a whip. Just gonna say. Have a snake story, Ellie. I need to stop.
No, I bet, Michael.
Okay.
Fedora, alone in the woods with a whip. I'm just saying.
I'm a little confused with this story. I'm not believing.
My story, and it's gonna be like I tell it.
I think you were watching a movie.
Ellie, I want to hear the snake story. Black mamba or cobra?
This was a rattlesnake, and I saw it on my walk a couple days ago with my dog. It was huge. It was like the size of my forearm.
Did you battle it?
No, I ran away from it. My big dog, also didn't do anything. He ran away scared too, which was a good thing. But yeah, no, it was crazy. And apparently it's too early for rattlesnakes, but they're out early, so.
I'm available the next time I'm walking.
Are there seasons for rattlesnakes?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
It's in the fall and the early spring, I guess. But they said they're here early or something. So
Susie, what about you? What's going on with you?
Okay, so we own a snake. We have a ball python. It's my daughter's. I'm not allergic. And they don't eat very often. They don't poop very often. And so they're pretty good. But
Do you cuddle with it?
she'll stay on our lap. We do feed her live rats. And they're
Carla, we have to get to you quickly.
I would line that cage with sticky traps.
Not where I thought this conversation was going. Do these updates. But here's
I've lost control of this whole conversation.
But, I do like adventure, and my daughter and I are doing a survival in Belize next year where we're going to do 4 days in the jungle. We have a guide, but I did insist on the hammock that has the mosquito netting, but really it's because they do have poisonous snakes in Belize, and I don't want that to be an issue. Our luxury item is a hammock. Okay, Carla, any snake stories?
Wait, can I just explain one thing? Your concept of luxury and mine, I've just realized, are at completely opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Susan's only going to do a Ritz-Carlton hammock, so it's just
With the drink on the
high
side.
fives.
So I shall want the
her
sparkling
glamping. Yes, her glamping.
Well, Susie, if you need tips for your survival in Belize, it sounds like Michael might be able to kind of guide you there. So
Sticky pads, I'm just telling you.
pads. Yeah, I'm embarrassed that we've had 3 snake stories in a row, and I don't have a update about a snake, although I will tell you I was born in the year of the snake, so there's that. I am coming to you from the Jersey Shore, helping my father out after having knee replacement surgery. And I will tell you, there is no better help after a surgery like this than having a daughter who's a surgeon and knows a lot about pain management and physical therapy. I don't know if he would say that as well, but I'm going to claim that. It's good to be here. We had some good weather, but we've got some rain coming our way. So, Susan, how about you? What's been going on?
I don't have a snake story, but I do have a bat story. Now, I have self-admittedly an irrational fear of bats, and we go for walks at night and scream, oh, there's a bat, so like I'm diving on the floor, and it's all ridiculous. But the other day I woke up and was downstairs getting ready to go out for a run, and I looked out, and there was a bat. And it's like 6:30 in the morning, and I lose my mind. I'm like, it's daylight. Why is the bat out? Oh my God, it's a rabid bat. And I text this exterminator that I have on speed dial for things like this. And I was like, there's a bat. You have to come over right now. He must have like jumped out of bed. He was at my house by 7 a.m. And he goes, where? I was like, it was outside. He goes, the bat was outside? It's like,
Susan!
yes, it was outside the window. It's not supposed to be there. And he's like, Susan, it's outside. The bat lives outside. I was like, but it was so close to the house, it could get in the house.
All he found was this guy with slick back hair and a black cape, though. Outside.
Exactly.
He always saw Michael outside with the fedora, so...
Dora, right, eating a snake to death. So he wasn't that impressed, and he had to explain that sometimes they are out in early morning and at dusk, even though it's still light, they can be outside. And he did calm me down, and then he laughed, and I felt like a fool. But I then woke up my kids to say there was a bat, and they lost it. I was like, oh, but it was outside. Don't worry. We took care of it.
Did he charge you?
Yeah,
I
yes.
don't know yet.
Yes.
I'll find out in a few weeks where the bills come in. But it was okay. It was worth it because I have an irrational fear. And he understands it. That's not the first text like that he has. I don't like bugs. I don't like bats. I don't like things flying around. I might live in a bit of a wooded area, so it may not be great for that, but it's okay. Now that we've spoken about bats and snakes and all things like that, let's get into our topic today. And I think it's a topic that pertains to all of us, regardless of what type of practice we are in, and it's how to run an efficient practice. Lots of ways to look at this, lots of ways to think about it, lots of ways to do this. So I suspect that all of us have different thoughts on what an efficient practice is. And Michael, you're in a multidisciplinary but still private practice setting. may be the oldest of the bunch. So how do you think about this? How do you go about setting it up? Do you have a say in how it's set up and how it runs?
That's a great question because early on, I was in a private practice that was my own. And you can have as much as you want, but you got to pay for it. In a setting where you're employed, it becomes a little bit different. But you always have to understand there is a budget. Whether you're in a university, whether you're employed by a hospital, there is a budget. We all want to have an MA and an RN and an APP and navigator. You want to have all of the stuff. But at the end of the day, your income is going to have to exceed your outflow. You really can't do that very well unless you know what your income is. Now, there are ways of optimizing income or the things that you offer, something that can be reimbursable. But I think it just has to start with, can my income match my outflow with a profit margin? No matter whether it's your own or somebody else's, it has to match.
I think that's an incredibly important thought. And Carla, you're in leadership, you're employed in a university setting, and I'm in a similar situation where we're responsible for our budgets and everyone wants everything. Too little, too much. How do you get to just right?
Ooh, I wonder if I can answer just right here. So yeah, very different model because I'm not necessarily picking out how many MAs I work with or how many nurses I work with. I will say, did anybody else's mouth start salivating when they heard about this topic? Because I love to talk about this stuff. So you guys are going to have to cut me off. I'm sure the podcast will end and I will still be talking about efficiency. So let's just acknowledge that. And I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. So for me, when I think about an efficient practice, I think about how many patients I'm seeing, how many cancers I'm seeing, how many patients I'm seeing that are going to have surgery. So I can probably talk about a lot of different aspects of this and don't want to go too far in one area. But for me, one of the biggest things for having an efficient practice is preparing for your patients ahead of time, sort of looking at your clinic schedule ahead of time. So I actually just spoke with a women in surgery group, and it was about building your practice, which is a little bit different. For me, sometimes it's so easy to talk about efficiency, and the other side of it is the patient experience. And I think it's really important to think about the finances, the efficiency, but also how that kind of comes back to your patient experience. Sometimes you can see patients, you can plan ahead. We're not going to operate on everybody, but seeing a patient in 15 to 20 minutes isn't the answer for everybody. So I'm excited to see where this topic goes. I may jump in, but I love talking about this in different aspects.
I completely agree, Carla. I think so much is about organization, being prepared for a visit, understanding what that is before, but also having all the other staff that you work with working off of a similar model. Here's all the checkpoints we need to get through in this visit so we know if something was missed, not missed. And I think that's important to define that framework for the staff as well as for patients too. And at the end, we say, hey, in summary, this is what we went through. And I have a lot more detail in your note if you want to actually look up a study or something like that. And being able to have that flexibility for people who really want to concentrate more on one area, that you don't miss some of the other things.
Ellie, being new in practice, I recall earlier this year you employed your first APP, or am I making that up?
No, you were correct, but it has been shared amongst others. So I am very much navigating what this topic is today. So one of the challenges as a surgeon early in your career is at first you want to get busy, and then you get so busy you don't know what to do with yourself. And now my focus is on efficiencies and deciding what days do I want to be in clinic some days and the OR. Do I want to just dedicate one day to the OR, one day to clinic? You know, I'm thinking about all this stuff, but you can't do it at the beginning. At least I wasn't ready to do it at the beginning. I just wanted to fill my schedule and make my bonus and do all those things. So now that I'm in this role and I'm in a practice where I don't get to decide who comes to me, it's the administration who's deciding. And I'm learning how to make these arguments and how to say, I'm seeing this many patients, I'm taking this many people to surgery. If I have an APP or a nurse practitioner, I can see more new patients and go to more surgeries ultimately. But like learning that argument is not something that we're taught. It's something that comes with practice. And also trying to get my hands on that information is challenging. In an academic setting, they're not saying, hey, you did this lumpectomy, we got however many dollars for it. Depending on your setup, you have to figure that out. Unlike a private practice where you're getting a bill, a payment, and you kind of know what the insurance company is paying you, it is hard in a semi-academic or employed setting to kind of see those numbers and make that argument. So this is something I'm navigating myself. And you guys said you're in charge of your budgets, right, Susan? And Carla?
In charge and responsible may be two different things.
Okay.
I think, Ellie, one of the things that was hardest for me starting out is I wanted to be the person who did absolutely everything. I wanted to be there who did the genetic testing and who called about that and who saw every single post-op. And that was a really big transition for me to be like, wow, I have other people here who are also awesome and can also do that, while I can be somewhere else, and figuring out what I'm willing to give up without lessening or compromising a relationship. That was the hardest for me, was giving some of it up.
I think that's step one of being efficient. I think in general, as doctors, as surgeons, we want to do it all. We talk about that all the time. It's our personalities, it's what we do. And I think learning what to sort of give up, what to delegate, whether it's to your partners, to a nurse, to an APP, to a practice manager. And I think talking with other people and how they run their practices is key. And you're totally right, Ellie. That is not your focus probably year 1 through 3. You should be paying attention to what other people are doing and sort of thinking about that for the future. But that's not your goal up front.
So Carla, give me the top 3 things that you have given up as you've moved along in your career.
A lot of that has to do with APPs. Ellie, I'm happy to talk with you about some recommendations in terms of negotiating that. So post-op visits, most of my benign post-op visits see my APP. I want to see all my patients. We all do, but it allows me to see the most new patients that need to be seen. Most non-cancer patients will see my APP up front. I think some patients who are at high risk or have genetic mutations, I think a lot of times there's a discussion up front about timing of their surgery, whether they want risk-reducing surgery or looking at other options that are high risk, whether they want reconstruction, whether they've had genetic testing. And so that is more formulaic. And I think things that you can put into a formula that are a little bit easier can be started with my APP and then meet with a plastic surgeon or get genetic testing and then come back and see me. And I have all of that information up front. So I think post-op phone calls, there were a lot of things that I would do up front where I would be the person talking with people, but a lot of that is a nurse or an APP at this point.
Clinic efficiency starts with your schedule. And how you set up your schedule is vital because you've got to take into mind, like what Carl was saying with the patient experience. I try to keep some of my new cancer patients towards the end of the morning or the end of the afternoon, knowing that those have the highest likelihood of running late. And I'm not throwing the rest of my schedule into disarray. Or if we're going to do a biopsy, we wait till the end of that morning clinic or that afternoon clinic and do those biopsies. And setting up a schedule is difficult because I think you need to reassess it every couple of years and be willing to say, okay, that didn't work really well. And then you've got to communicate to your schedulers who to put where, because their goal is to get people in. But if they're getting a bunch of breast pain in at a time that you would like to see new patients, that's a problem as well. So you really have to define what you can do. And everybody's schedule is going to be different. I used to work with somebody who just stacked them up one after the other. And by the end of the clinic, everybody was angry. The patients were angry. His support staff was angry. He was angry. So it's really good to start with a schedule that works with your flow, that can be the most efficient.
So on the average day, how many of you run late in clinic?
I do.
I do, but probably 15 minutes,
Yeah, I'm
30
about-
minutes. I think people are a wide range there.
Yeah, that's my general rule. If I'm going to be more than 15 minutes, I know it in advance, you got to call the patient. I hate waiting in a waiting room, and I don't want someone else sitting in my waiting room just being like, hey, nobody said just go get a cup of coffee, or they're running late out of that courtesy.
You hit the nail on the head in the communication. And that's part of running an efficient office in my mind is everyone's involved, from the front office to the clinical staff, to the physicians, to the manager. Everyone's involved. If you're running late, someone's out in that waiting room talking to the patient, saying, there's some difficult conversation. It ran a little longer. We're so sorry. Would you like a cup of coffee? We have a coffee maker. We have snacks. We have all of that. So I think that does help. Maybe not with the efficiency, moment to moment, but with patient satisfaction. It certainly does help. The communication makes an enormous difference. The people who talk about efficiency sometimes, it does affect patient satisfaction because they're so in tune with, I have to be out of this room in 10 minutes. Well, the patient's crying. She just found out she had breast cancer. You cannot do that in 15 minutes. I mean, at least I cannot. I've never been able to get there. So there's a human aspect to this because there's a patient and we do deal with, and I'm not being dramatic, but we deal with life and death every day. There's people on the other side. There's loved ones. There's people with them that have questions. But let's say you run an efficient practice. There comes a point where you just have so much going on. How do you handle that? You're involved nationally. You're involved in hospital committees because that's what they want you to do. You're operating. You're seeing patients. You're managing a team. What gives?
Every time you say yes, what are you saying no to? If you add something to your plate, what are you taking off? Now, I have to say, I don't follow that advice at all. I am the worst at this. I say, yes, yes, yes. Of course, add this person on. Oh, this? Oh, yeah, I want to go do that. So don't look to me to practice this, but I think it was really good advice.
I also think it depends on the stage of your career. I think early on, like Ellie, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Followed by thank you. Yes, and thank you, and please, and if you need someone to help with a project, please call me. Whatever it is, I'm happy to help. Oh, you need someone to give a talk? Happy to do it. So I think that really does depend on a few things. Number one, what do you want out of your career? Thankfully, there's lots and lots of surgeons that just want to be fabulous clinical surgeons and want nothing else. I'm thrilled that the world is full of trained surgeons who do a great job, and that's what they want to do. And then there's the people that want to be involved locally or nationally or internationally. So it really depends on what do you want out of your career. But initially, regardless of what you want, I think the answer is yes. Carla, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Again, I work with a lot of young faculty and I work with fellows, and I say that to them all the time. It's probably year 7 or 8 for me where I started to say no and get more selective because I'd gotten to the point. Was that too long or too short?
A long time. I don't know that I'm there yet. So you're better than me.
One of my philosophies is I believe that you should run at 80 to 85% as much as you can. And people will say, are you crazy? Are you a slacker? I think most people would not call me a slacker, but that allows me, when I say those yeses, that I can kind of expand to 100%. I can expand. And I will tell you, spring, probably because of our meetings and other things going on last year, I was sort of submitting stuff for promotion. I was probably working at about 120%. And I can do that. We can all do that. But I cannot work at 120% for a year. I cannot work at 120% for 5 years in a row. I will be burnt out. And so that's why I try to keep myself at about 80%. And I kind of had one of those summers last summer, and I'm about to kind of start expanding because I have to start practicing in a new hospital. It's going to grow really well. I'm really excited about that, but it's going to kind of stretch me a little bit. And so I think focusing on that is important. I think the other part of that, when you can't handle something, is we've talked about work-life balance, whatever it is.
I cannot stand that.
I know. What did we say the term was? We said something else.
Life integration.
Life integration. That's when you talk about life integration, your life affects your efficiency and sort of your timing at work. And so your patients benefit when you control your schedule outside of work as well, and making sure that, you show up to work for those 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is, and you're ready to operate and you're ready to see patients and quote unquote be efficient.
I think that these are great points, but let's go back to the office, because I think that life integration is critically important. And sometimes our inefficiencies at work impact our outside life? You were talking about being prepared. Well, how do you prepare? So, full day of patients tomorrow. Do I look through all their charts tonight? Does that help me tomorrow, or does that impact my life with my family, which then I'm not so happy in the morning because I missed a night with my family? So how do we balance that?
I think it starts really with a nurse or with the people that are taking in the new patients. What do I need to have in front of me before I see this patient? If the path's not back yet, we're not going to have a conversation. Or if I can't see the imaging, or if we're waiting on something. It takes a ton of legwork a lot of times if you're working out of multiple systems. Having a list of what it is that you need to see that patient. And if you just can't get it, then they need to at least point it out to you. I don't have this back yet. Can you call the pathologist or whatever else? But whoever is putting these patients on and getting their chart ready, they need to know exactly what it is that you need and pointing it out to you if they don't have it. You don't have time to flip through a chart and find out you don't have something. It needs to be there, readily available for you to see, and you've got to have people in the background getting that information to you.
So, Michael, what I'm hearing is the importance of the team.
The team is the deal. I mean, we're just sort of the closer. Yeah, the team.
Right. So that's how we are efficient. It's the importance of our team. This is a team sport, and the team varies. The players vary all the time, but it's always a team. So let's talk about that. Susie, who's on your team? Who makes your life easier, which really translates to more efficient use of your time during your workday?
You're 100% correct. I mean, there are so many people a part of this. We have scheduling, we have a nurse, we have a medical assistant, we have APPs, and that's just what's in my office. And then when you go to radiology and you have your pathologists and you have your physical therapist and being able to reach out to anything, hey, I need help. I need an MRI moved up sooner. Can you look at that? And those are the people in the tech.
So wait a second, let's back up. Are you really calling to say, hey, I need an MRI sooner? Is that what you're doing or someone on your team is doing?
Well, we have a navigator, and then we, through our computer system, develop chats for who needs to be contacted. So it could be a PA, and then I'm notified of it. But if I happen to be there, that's the need, I have a couple fingers. I can type into that. And then all the way through the pre-op area, the OR being organized and PACU, because if stuff is not organized and ready, it's only 30 seconds and it feels like 10 minutes in the OR. Like if something is not right there, having people prepared. Organization, preparation. I love going through my charts and writing stuff out. Are we looking for the clip plus whatever localizer device? Is it just a localizer device? Like being completely organized is soothing to me.
My PA will do that for me. And I get an email with, here's what we're looking for. Here's the size of it. Here's the location. Here's the clip. Is it a Dragonfly clip? Is it a U clip? Whatever it is. Now, I look at all of the imaging myself, but here it is written out nicely. That makes me more efficient because I don't have to be writing it out. I'm looking at it. I'm reviewing it. I'm doing all those things I need to do so that I can go into that operation prepared. But I don't need to be writing it out on an email. I get that printed out for me and I carry it with me all day long. And then I have it to dictate my op notes. So that helps make me more efficient in my OR days. Ellie, what makes you more efficient in your clinic or your OR?
I do something called a flight plan. So it's like a 1-page document that I create the first time I see the patient. It's after I've looked at their imaging. It's after I've done their physical exam. And especially with the oncoplastic stuff, it's how I put it all in one little spot. It says their name, the size of the mass, the clip, whatever. And then I draw on the computer where I want the radiologist to put stuff for me to find. My nurse sends it to the plastic surgeon. I have it on like a shared drive that we can all access. And that I look at the night before. I've generated this on my first visit. I usually don't have to edit it much unless there's a change or something with the biopsy. But honestly, that one piece of information, I know that I need to do, but all of the other systems I can offload to someone else. So prepping my notes, that's one of the tasks I give to the APPs. Having the nurse navigator fill out a checklist like Michael's talking about. They're sure that the patient is all tied up in a bow before she walks in the door. And if not, we're going to reschedule or move things around. They have that agency to do that. I know that the only things that I can do are the operation or sometimes seeing new patients, and everything else I try to offload. That's what I'm working on right now, is just offloading those tasks.
I love the one-touch flight plan. You made it, but you didn't go back and redo work.
Right. And it's all fresh in your head too. So every time you revisit something, it takes you 5 times longer to do it. When I have that initial visit, I just brain dump it on there. It's up in the share drive and I can access it. So it's been a good move.
I think we've hit a lot of great things. And to be honest, a lot of these are very simple. And I think that's the key, is the simplicity. I would say the one thing that we've talked about and I think really helps with my clinic day is preparing ahead of time. So I will look at my schedule a week ahead of time. I will look at my schedule a day ahead of time, and I will reschedule patients if I need to. And I think Michael spoke to that. You have time where a patient is seeing you. You don't have all the information. You've potentially wasted their time, potentially your own time. And the bigger point of whose time you're wasting there's the patient who didn't get to see you that day that got pushed to next week because that patient was seeing you. And so I think...
So are you doing that, or you have a team?
We talk about different tasks that we have that take us a long time, but it's also what we like and don't like doing. And I think if we look at all 5 of us, we're probably enjoy doing different things. And that's something I can do really easily. I do really well. I am constantly thinking about who else can do some of these things, but there are certain things that I can just do quicker and I really don't mind doing.
So who do you have as a team that works with you?
I have a scheduler. So as part of the cancer center, there's going to be people who are getting the records and scheduling those patients. So that is new patients. I have my admin who, to be honest, probably doesn't have a lot of extra time on her hands. So even though I'm always thinking of things that I'd like her to be doing, part of it is I think she's at 100% capacity, if not 120%. So that's why some of those things I don't think I can ask of her. But again, I have a nurse navigator. I have an APP. Right now, I've really focused my APP support after surgery. I've thought about different ways. Before surgery, I talked a little bit about benign patients or high-risk patients. But for my cancer patients, for me right now, that's going to be me up front, although I know a lot of models that are different than that.
Ellie, give us one thing you've learned in this episode about how you will become more efficient.
My takeaway is that you can always learn other practice models from other people. I got a lot of that from the meeting. You just hear how other people run their practices and it opens your mind to new ideas. And when you're having limiting thoughts like, oh, I can't do that because that's not how we do it. No, people do it and they're successful with it. So it always kind of opens my mind to new ways of doing things better. So I love these talks because they always give me great ideas. So thanks, guys.
Susie, your takeaway.
I love that we all have different learning styles and way that works for us, and being able to hear all those things and go, no, I really like my physical hands on doing it. And that helps me learn. And that's good. And that's okay. So learning and then figuring out what works for you.
Michael?
Efficiency is purposeful. It requires communication. And most of all, it requires a team.
I love that. Carla, wrap this up for us.
Yeah, that's a tough one to follow. So I'm going to echo, as we often do, what others have said, but especially Ellie and Susie, because I think no one model works for everybody because we all have different practice settings. So if you hear about how somebody is doing one thing, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for you. And number 2, always be open to listening to other people about how to better serve your patients. And I'm constantly learning new things and ways to be a better surgeon.
I think those are all incredibly important points. And there's 5 of us on this podcast today. If we had 20 of us we would still all have different ways to do things. And yet we all run efficient practices. So I think my takeaway is there's so many ways to do things. You just have to be open to learning new ways, because sometimes the way we do it is best. Sometimes it's just not. So again, it's a team sport and we learn from each other every day. So to our listeners throughout the breast community, once again, we are so excited that you've joined us on this journey, and we'll see you next time on the Next Breast Thing podcast.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of The Next Breast Thing, a podcast by the American Society of Breast Surgeons for the breast community.
Also, join the conversation on our Facebook group by searching the Next Breast Thing podcast group on Facebook.
Finally, the content within the Next Breast Thing podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-host and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the American Society of Breast Surgeons.
Until next time, this is Carla,
Ellie.
Michael.
Susie,
and Susan. And always remember, if you're part of the breast community and can't seem to find the answers, this is the Next Breast Thing.